So calling the meeting to order. This is a special meeting of the Board of Education of the Hauppauge Union Free School District. It is January 27th, 2022. Our meeting is being held remotely due to the time constraints and time-sensitive nature of what we're meeting. So as many of you have seen and or heard, we've gotten some solicitations or emails from parents and other community members asking us to join in the filing of an amicus brief on the case in Nassau County that's currently before the appellate division concerning the legality of the governor's actions in regards to the mask mandate. Gene, if you don't mind, can you just generally tell the board what an amicus brief is?
Yes, a non-party to the litigation, if they have an interest in the subject matter, can be. It's not automatic, and I haven't had a chance, Dave, to research yet whether leave of court is required in this matter. But I assume the pro bono attorney who's preparing this will do what is necessary. But it's basically someone who's not a direct party but has an interest in the subject matter gets to express their views on the litigation.
Yeah, so, and my understanding, Gene, is that you need leave of court, but part of that leave is actually submitting the brief and asking to submit the brief. So the work is already done.
That is correct. I assume they're going to put in a brief stating the position of school boards and seeking leave. Whether the appellate division will grant it or not, we'll probably find out tomorrow or thereafter.
Right. So I know Don contacted the attorney that's submitting the amicus, and I did as well, to determine what the angle was for the brief, and to determine whether we wanted to join that, and also to convene the board to make a determination as to whether we want to join the amicus brief. So not my understanding is there's at least 4 districts that have agreed to join. My further understanding is that Mr. Regano is doing this on a pro bono basis, which means that there's no cost to the district. The only determination we need to make is whether we want to join in the amicus. So my understanding of what the brief is going to focus on, and this was important to get this information, I think, because as we know from our meetings and as we know from the survey that we did a few months ago, the topic of masks in our schools is a pretty hot topic and pretty split, and there's strong feelings on both sides. However, when we did our survey, what was really important to almost everyone was local control. So it was important to me to determine from the attorney what the angle of the brief was, and whether it was going to be an easy decision to join or not. So I'm recounting my conversation with Mr. Regano. He indicated to me that the amicus is going to be focused on 3 topics. First, that the regulation concerning emergency powers granted to the governor, which enabled her to put in this mask mandate, had lapsed, and therefore the mandate no longer stands or is good. That local control is important, and that power, once the regulation lapsed, should be given back to local school boards. And 3, that the governor's mandate did not have an adequate discussion or consideration of the effect or not of masks on kids. So those are the focus of the brief. Mr. Regano indicated that they're intentionally staying away from whether masks are good or not, because they realize that the science is pretty much up in the air. on that, but the 3 points that they're making seem to be in line with what we've been saying as a board for more than a year now, that, local control should rule in these types of decisions, and that Hauppauge knows what's best for Hauppauge, and Hauppauge parents know what's best for their kids and our students. So the decision right now is whether we want to join the other, I think it's 3 or 4 districts, like I said, in retaining Mr. Regano to represent the district and to include the district in the amicus briefs that he's filing. Don, do you have anything more on your conversation with Mr. Regano?
No, I think he captured it well, the points that they're making.
So,
Dave, can I just
Yes.
tell you what I know through various sources?
yes.
My understanding, I do not have documentary verification of this, but what I do, information I've received is that Massapequa, Locust Valley, perhaps Plain Edge, and I believe Connecticut have passed resolutions. And in fact, I have on my device here a resolution, which I cannot verify this in a documentary style, that Connecticut has adopted. And I just point out the one thing that struck me is that the authorization in Connecticut for the president of the Board of Education to execute any necessary pleadings or documents, that the authorization for them to file, the Regano firm to file pro bono, but that what jumped out at me, which I think is salutary, is that the document, the brief, will be subject to the final approval of the president of the Board of Education. So I think that's an important thing. That's what I want.
Okay. And that was my understanding from my discussion with the attorney as well, that he plans on getting approval from the individual districts before he submits anything on their behalf. So that I think that's in line, Gene, with what you just recounted.
Right.
So before us now is a resolution that I can read if we choose to. Well, I'll read the resolution. It's by motion, so we'll take a motion and then we'll have discussion on the resolution if there is any, and then we'll vote on it. So I'm just going to read this directly into the record, okay? And it's number 2 on our agenda for this meeting, and it states as follows. Resolved that the Board of Education hereby appoints Nicholas C. Regano, Esquire, of the law firm of Regano, LLC, to serve as pro bono special counsel for the Board of Education in connection with the matter discussed in executive session, and be it further resolved that the Board of Education authorizes Mr. Regano of the law firm of Regano, LLC, to commence any needed pro bono legal action necessary for the submission of an amicus curiae brief on behalf of the Board of Education in connection with the January 28th, 2022 hearing in the case of Michael Demetrio et al. Versus New York State Department of Health et al. Docket number 2022-00539 and index number 616124 of 2021, currently pending before the Supreme Court of the State of New York Appellate Division, Second Department, and to submit such brief subject to the final review and approval of the President of the Board of Education at no cost to the Hauppauge Union Free School District and or the Board of Education of the Hauppauge Union Free School District. And be it further resolved that the Board of Education authorizes the President of the Board to execute any necessary pleadings in connection with the above referenced legal action and submission of an amicus curiae brief on behalf of the Board of Education. And be it further resolved that the Board of Education hereby approves the pro bono retainer agreement with Nicholas C. Regano, Esquire, of the law firm of Regano, LLC, and authorizes the President or Vice President of the Board of Education to execute such retainer agreement on behalf of the Board of Education. Do I have a motion to approve that resolution?
So moved.
Dr. Crawford, thank you. Do I have a second? I'll second it. Discussion? Does anyone have any discussion concerning the resolution? You're going to have to raise your hand if you do. Mr. Scrito?
I guess the question is, what is the negative? We've discussed the positive that we get local control, Mr. Barchet. What is there any negative at all that we should be concerned about?
I'll ask Mr. Barnowski to opine on that. And Gene, to the extent that it traverses into attorney-client privilege, we can take a break. But generally, is there any downside to submitting an amicus on a case?
Not really. I mean, again, it's just friend of the court to provide information, but I mean, I guess not necessarily legally, but as a matter of policy, you're taking a position. So that position reflects the opinion of the majority of the Board of Education in representing your community. That's why I pointed out, I thought it was important that the document itself, the brief, be reviewed by the president of the board prior to its submission to make sure that it is consistent with the goals and policies of the Hauppauge School District.
Right. And that's, thank you, Gene. And that's kind of, Rob, why I led in with the preamble about our survey and what was important to the community and the split on masks in general. But everyone, the overwhelming portion of our community believed local control was important. And that's my understanding of where this brief is headed. Yes, Mr. Scrito.
So we're not voting on mask or no mask. You're only voting on Mr. Barchet joining this thing to get local control back for the mask policy.
No, neither of those statements is accurate. All we're voting on is whether to join the other districts in submitting an amicus brief. And as Gene says, you know, it's Latin, but it really means just friend of the court. And I can tell you in practice, it's just providing the court with information, a point of view that they might not have before them by the litigants to the case. So it's really just how the mask mandate affects Hauppauge and the other districts. That's what the amicus is focusing on, not whether masks are good or not whether the science is good or not. Only my understanding is the importance of local control and whether the regulation or the mandate is legal or not. It does not opine on the efficacy of masks.
So once again, we're not determining right now if we're asking Hauppauge students to wear or not wear masks.
That is correct. Now, the ultimate result of the amicus and the lawsuit may compel us to either continue to require masks or not enforce that, but that is not the focus of the brief, but that is the result of the litigation, whether we are involved or not. Gene, can you?
So further information, Mr.
Yeah.
President, if I may?
Yes.
So again, none of this is documentarily proven, but my understanding of tomorrow, pursuant to the rules of the Appellate Division, Second Department, is that there will be no oral argument, that the return tomorrow morning, I believe at 10 a.m. in Brooklyn, will be the submission of further briefs and perhaps pleadings or motions, whatever the parties choose to do, and that the Appellate Division will then reserve decision, most likely, and that the stay will remain in effect pending their decision. So, you know, again, I don't think the decision in Hauppauge is before us. It's not ripe in the sense that until right now, the mandate by reason of the stay granted by the single justice of the Appellate Division is in effect. So as of right now, the status quo ante in Hauppauge is the way we were last week. What happens tomorrow, I think it's not likely that there'll be a decision, and I think that stay will remain in effect for some period of time while the full panel of the Appellate Division deliberates on this matter.
Right. But Gene, more directly to Rob's point, you know, the masks in Hauppauge is governed by the law, right? I mean, we're not, what we do today has nothing to do with whether the kids can wear masks or not on Monday. I mean, that's going to be determined by the litigation and or further order of the governor.
That is correct, or perhaps act of the legislature. We don't know what the governor may do in terms of, she's hinted at calling a special meeting of the legislature. And as if and when the mandate is lifted, then, as I've discussed with the superintendent, we'll have to reflect upon your reopening plan and whether that requires any amendment.
Rob, does that answer your question?
Yes, and then the last question I had was for Dr. Kraffa. If he would want to give me his opinion, because he's the expert. I'm real estate. I really don't know medical.
You want his opinion on what? I just want to clarify. The efficacy of masks?
What this could mean to us, yes.
My opinion is we should have local control. And the timing of that will all depend on, where we are in the pandemic, with my opinion on whether or not we still need masks. So really can't answer it right now, but I absolutely think we should get local control back.
And again, that's my understanding of what we're asking for here, is to have the ability to make this decision on our own, which we've been advocating for and the community supports since last year. Any further discussion? Any other questions from anyone else? Don, do you want to be heard at all on this? It's not normal for you to be part of the motion process, but since we're,
Well, I just would reinforce the theme here, which is the local control would then allow us to engage in some sort of process with our community to figure out how we want to act on that local control. And I think that's an important point. I just wanted to restate it. It's not taking a position either way. It's understanding the will of our community. And if we had that ability to do so, then we can engage in that process.
right. Put simply, this will allow Hauppauge to decide what's best for Hauppauge, not to have Albany tell us what's best for the entire state and us be lumped into that. We've consistently taken the position that local control is important, that Hauppauge knows Hauppauge, that Hauppauge students are different than students in other districts, that Hauppauge parents know what's best for their students, and that local control should prevail over statewide mandates that may not fit our circumstances. So, anything further? We have someone, Don, someone just jumped into the meeting. I'm sorry. And she's
Since it was a
all right.
Public meeting. Yeah.
Understood. I think there's some
Actually,
confusion.
I apologize. I believe that was Christine.
Yeah, it's okay, Steve.
Okay.
Yeah, Steve.
Yeah, I believe there's some confusion as to whether we're actually live streaming or not right now. If we're not, let's make sure we get a copy of this or a recording of this up immediately for public record, public consumption. Anything further on this before we take a vote? Okay, so I'm just going to go one by one like we used to, and I'll go in I guess, reverse order of seniority. Mr. Barchet votes yes. Mr. Scarito?
Yes.
Scarito votes yes. Mr. Fortmeyer?
Yes.
Mr. Fortmeyer votes yes. Dr. Kraffa?
Yes.
Dr. Kraffa votes yes. Mr. Kiley?
Yes.
Mr. Kiley votes yes. That is 5-0. The resolution has passed. Don, I ask that you contact Nick Regano by email, not by phone. He's told me that he's getting bombarded with phone calls and emails much easier. He just needs some basic information concerning our number of students and staff, and copies of letters concerning our position that we've taken and that we've sent to the governor's office and whatnot, and also a copy of the resolution that we just passed. Again, and if you could do that expeditiously or quickly, that would be great, because time is of the essence. Anything further from any?
Hey, Don, how about maybe a Parent Square announcement?
Yep, no problem.
Anything else from anyone? I want to thank the board members and Mr. Barnowski and central office for getting together so quickly. We literally got this together in about 10 minutes. So thank you all for recognizing the importance of the issue and making yourselves available in attending the meeting wherever you are today. With that, I'll take a motion for an adjournment. The adjournment is noted as number 4 on the agenda. I believe it should be 3. There is no 3 on the agenda. So number 3 on the agenda is an adjournment. I'll take a motion to adjourn. I'll make the motion. Mr. Scrito seconds. Does anybody vote no? Okay, so it's 5-0. We are adjourned. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.